Hi guys, the soup du jour today is Gyakuto from the Shoden series. Now this form is often used in Taikai and gradings when people have to do Koryu because it initially looks quite flashy. It's not really flashy, it's actually not any more difficult than Inyo Shintai. In fact, I think Inyo Shintai is a far more challenging form both technically and physically. But people tend to use it, and really the difficult part of the form isn't the physical execution, it's the riai, the logic and the interpretation of what's going on. So whether or not you understand the riai, the logic, the application of the form is very visible if you look at very fine details of how somebody performs this kata. So these are the points we're going to be looking at. I think most of you know how to do Gyakuto fairly well, but it's important that we show the riai as we're doing it. So let's look at the form in its basic technique first. So starting off, of course, in Seiza. Now, unlike all other Shoden forms, we start to put our hands on while our hips are lifting. And as this is happening, our upper body can be slightly tilted forwards, unlike nearly any Shoden form. So while we're tilting forwards and our hands are coming on, we grip. The right foot moves next to the left knee and we draw the sword slightly down. So again, this is a kind of sasoe waza, an invitation for the opponent to try and cut you on the head. Then as their cut comes, we stand up. The right foot comes back to the left foot, but we leave the heel off the floor, so only the toes of the right foot are on the floor, and we go into this ukinagashi position. We then cut to the chin and then take a small step forward with the left foot and a big step with the right foot without cutting the ceiling hopefully, and do kiriyoshi. We then do fumikae, change the feet into jodan kamae, and then we start to move the sword over and down first. When it reaches approximately horizontal, we then lower the body and the sword at the same time, almost like a feeling of pressing the opponent's body into the floor. We then have two ways in which we can follow up to do the ski. The way that most people used to do was to change the grip with the right hand first, move the left foot forwards, slide in with the right knee, and here the sword is almost vertical. For European people, we are allowed to put our elbow on the knee. Usually in Japan this is taught not to happen, but for us with long upper arms we can do this. And in this position there are a few conditions you have to keep. One is that there should be a solid grip, a 90-degree grip on the handle. The elbow should be also horizontal with the hand, so the forearm should be horizontal. And the ski is made really by lifting the shoulder and skiing, and not by rotating the elbow like this. So the reason for this was that lots of Nakayama Hakudo Sensei students would very freely lift up the hand, and many of them stab themselves in the hand. So this is a kind of countermeasure to stop you from stabbing yourself. So ski and try to keep your forearm horizontal while you're doing this. We then move back to this position, and we can do either of three ways to do Noto. You can either have the sword flat in front of you like this, prepare and then come back, or you can bring the kisaki a little bit more behind you, prepare and down, or you can rest the sword on your left leg, prepare the left hand, and then do Noto. There is also another slightly more challenging way to do this, to bring the left hand down to the Tsubamoto and onto the Koiguchi, and then this becomes flat Noto first and then rotates to vertical this way. Okay, now the riai that we have to show during the form is about timing. So there should be a momentary pause here and then a momentary pause here. Now what happens at this moment is that either you have stepped away from the opponent's cut and avoided their cut entirely, so their sword doesn't touch yours, and they've simply brought the sword down in front of you, or maybe you've actually made an effective deflection and their sword slides off. But at this moment you have to look and decide to see what you're going to do next. If they've made a vertical cut and missed, then they could be finishing with a sword just down here like this, and it's then very easy for them to stab you, for example. Or if they've been deflected off, then it's very easy for them to do this. So there is a moment when you're looking at the situation and judging what to do next. If, for example, they bring the sword up the centre, then you would have to do a different kind of attack. If they tried to cut from under when you're in this position, then maybe you have to step back and do a reaching cut to reach them. So of course you don't actually do this in the kata, but you have to show a moment of pause to demonstrate that you're looking at the situation, decide what to do next. So from here is a momentary pause, and again another momentary pause here as we make a cut to the chin. Now the reason why we're pausing here is that at this moment, in order for the kata to make sense as it continues, then the opponent has ducked away to avoid the cut. But they're not dead or anything, they've still got their sword in their hand, so again there's a moment of pause to see what they're going to do next. You present some pressure and they start to move back, but this has to be preceded by, again, a recognition of what the situation is and deciding what you're going to do. So just to reiterate, there's a pause here to invite them to cut, a pause here to evaluate, a pause here to evaluate, and then half a step, full step and cut. Okay? And then, as we did before, Fumikai, then lower the body at this point here, ski, return, and your choice. Now, for European people, we also have a choice of how to position ourselves for the ski, given that we've got quite long arms and quite long legs. So from this position, what you can also do is leave this knee where it is and lunge yourself forwards. But what's important is, if you place the kisaki on the floor, as you lunge forward, the kisaki needs to remain in the same relative position. So I'll just reposition the camera so you can see, hopefully. So you should be able to see the kisaki is on the floor here to mark where it was originally pointing. As I lunge forwards, it has to remain in the same place. Okay, so just showing that again after Jodan and lowering the body. Change the right hand, lunge forwards. My right foot comes behind me here, and I'm loading lots of weight onto the left knee. Ski, and then come back without moving the feet back. Of course, the right foot returns behind the right knee. So all of these parts that you can make adjustments for are up to you. The way that you do the ski, the way that you prepare noto, you can make the choice to fit these together to suit you. Okay, that's it. See ya later.